Welcome to the class. Today we are going to look at aspirated sounds in words. You know, there are some sounds that get aspirated in English at the initial position of a word. Those sounds are pa, tha, ka. These are voiceless stop sounds in English. They come from three different places of articulations. One is bilabial, the other is alveolar, and this one is velar sound. So each one of these sounds are from different places of articulations, like one is a bilabial sound, pa is a bilabial sound, ta is an alveolar sound, and ka is a velar sound. But they are all voiceless stops. There is no voicing in each one of them. There is no voicing. So this is no voice and no aspiration. And this is no voice but plus aspiration. So the point is, some sounds like pa, ta, ka in English words become aspirated like pa, ta, ka at the initial position of a word. We have done this exercise, we have talked about these things, but today we are going to look at our discussions one more time and go slightly deeper into understanding how aspiration works. As you know, all these things are discussions about words. We are still discussing words, and one of the important things about words is when we know how to pronounce a word properly, it's going to make our speech impressive, and in return it is going to make us confident. So what we are going to do, what we are doing in this process is, we are looking at certain features that come into play when we speak a word, and these are the elements. And today we are looking at one specific thing in slightly more details. So for understanding this aspect of words, particularly this aspect of word in English, we need to keep three things in mind. One is aspiration. That is, as you saw, aspiration is one specific feature of sounds. This is about manner of articulation, because this is what we know as places of articulation. And then what these features are the features of these sounds according to their manners of articulations. So what we know as, in certain condition, that is at the initial position in a word, this pa becomes pa. So aspiration simply means in the production of this sound there is little extra flow of air as air puff at the end of, when we pronounce that. You can put your palm in front of your mouth, simply palm, and say the words, say the sounds like pa, tha, ka. And or you can put a paper in front of you, and when you say pa, you will see paper moving away from you. So this is one aspect of word. The other is, we need to understand, so this is, one is aspiration, second thing is syllable, and third thing is stress. we have talked about each one of these things separately. Now we are looking at how how our understanding about these things help us understand something more, which together is going to make our pronunciation impressive. So look at this. So moving ahead, syllable, what do we know about syllable? A word is made of sounds, so is a syllable. A syllable is a unit of word and it's made of sounds. So a syllable could be one single sound also, and it could be group of sounds, but eventually it's a unit of word. It's unit in a word. It is made of sounds. And stress is a feature on a vowel sound in a syllable or in a word. So when we try to understand stress in English words, two very critical things that we need to know is, two critical things are, one, if there are two syllables in a word, one of the two will definitely be stressed syllable. That is, anytime you have more than one syllable in a word, one of the syllables is going to be stressed and only one syllable will be stressed. This is a rule of thumb in English words. In a monosyllabic word, when the word itself is just one syllable and it's not possible to divide it further, then if these sounds, then if non-aspirated sounds are there in the initial position of a word, then they become aspirated. So basically, stress is a feature on a vowel sound in a syllable or in a word. So we need to look at all these three things. We need to understand these three things with clarity and look at the interplay of these things in a combined way. So let's look at the words now. And some of these words we have discussed earlier also. So what we mean is a voiceless stop, a voiceless, that is minus voice stop sound will become voiceless unaspirated stop will become aspirated. This is what we are talking about. When do they become aspirated? At the initial position of a word. At the initial position of a word. This is the rule. So this is the initial rule. So when we see a word like pen, pin, pan, park, in each one of these words we have a voice, an unaspirated voiceless stop at the initial position of a word, and this sound at the initial position of word is going to be aspirated. So each one of these words is going to carry this sound in it. So it will sound like pen, pin, pan, park. In these words, again, because ta sound is at the initial position of a word, so it's going to be aspirated, and this word is going to sound tan, tuck, trick, team. This is what is the aspiration. This is what happens to these sounds at the initial position. It sounds like ka at the initial position will also become aspirated, and it is going to sound like car, can, king, crush, crush, crush. So this is what happens to these words. Keep in mind, these are monosyllabic words. These these words cannot be divided into 2 syllables. So, what we see when we look at more words, so in these words we see these are monosyllabic words, and a syllable or a word is possible only when there is a vowel sound in it. So, we see there is a vowel sound everywhere in this. So, now pay attention to these words, truck and trick. Pay attention to crush. What's the difference between these 3 words and rest of the words? In rest of the words, right after these unaspirated stop, you have a vowel sound. So, this is CVC, whereas these 2 are CCV. C, meaning there is a cluster. When we see here again we see CCVC. So, when we see there is a cluster and still we see the first sound getting aspirated, because the second sound in a cluster is a ra sound. Usually this is a voice sound, but in the environment of a voiceless stop, this also remains a voiceless sound. It becomes a voiceless sound. So, just like it works just like a vowel sound, and therefore, it allows aspiration at the initial position. These words are going to show you that. So, in a word like cry, that's how this word sounds. This word has k, r, a and e. K, r, a and e. Cry, cry. So, CC, it's basically a CCVV. So, this first sound ka is getting aspirated in the presence of ra, which eventually becomes a voiceless in this environment, and therefore this allows aspiration. In this word like try, again this sound is aspirated. Plot, this sound is aspirated. Remember this one again, ra and la, both ra is voiceless too. So, you see ra in a word like cry and try, but in a word like plot, you see la sound. Clock, you see la sound. Again, in crime, you see ra sound. So, pa sound in plot also gets aspirated. Ka sound in clock also gets aspirated. Crime also gets aspirated. Tie, it's a normal word. So, this is aspirated. Town, tank. All these initial sounds are aspirated in these monosyllabic words. That's the simple point. So, at the in the simplest possible way, if we want to summarize the thing that we need to pay attention to, that we need to keep in mind, to pay attention to when we hear others or when we want to practice this, we need to keep in mind that 3 sounds, voiceless stops like pa, ta, ka, are becoming aspirated in English at the word initial position. That's what is important to look at. It's pretty simple, and this is one specific point to start with, to practice things, to pay attention to more words and make a list of 20 words. Here, take a pen and paper, make a list of 20 words, go through your memory, go through your vocabulary, or you can quickly look at words which begin with pa, tha or ka sounds in a dictionary, and then make a list of 10 each from these 3 sounds. You will have a series of 30 words, and then see if those words are monosyllabic words. If they are not, then find monosyllabic words, and for your confidence, for the purpose of practice, make them sound like aspirated sounds. But so this will be a nice practice to do at this stage. This is one point to understand in the process of our learning of pronunciation, our understanding of sounds in words, and our effort in trying to find out underlying patterns to see underlying rules with clarity, so that we can apply those things when we speak English. This is going to yield much better result, and you will see the impact of this in the back of your mind soon when you start speaking freely. So far we can see the rule is, there are several parts of this rule. I will come back to that, and this is what I meant that we are going to look at it in details. The rule is voiceless stops such as pa, tha, ka are aspirated at the beginning of word. We have looked at this part. We have looked at these features so far today. We have looked at these things earlier also, and last time we stopped right here. Now we need to move a step forward to understand these things in more details, so that we understand better nuances and we understand this issue in a nuanced fashion to improve our speaking further, which is pa, tha, ka are aspirated at the beginning of the stressed syllable. So the main idea is, if there is a monosyllabic word and there is a vowel sound right after these sounds in a word like pin, pan, tank, then these vowel sounds are stressed anyway, therefore they are allowed to be aspirated. But what happens in words which have more than one syllable? And that becomes very interesting to pay attention to. Let us observe some patterns to learn more about this issue. So we are going to look at, so 1 is very clear to us, we are going to look at 2. And then we will look at the issues where aspiration is ruled out. So we are going to look at how pa, tha, ka are also aspirated when they are not at the initial position of a word, but they are at the initial position of a syllable which is getting stressed in a word in English. And therefore, here the understanding of our understanding of stress patterns in English is going to become important and going to play an important role in our understanding of these aspirations, so that we can revise our understanding of this aspiration. And of course we can say voiceless stops get aspirated at the initial position of a word in English. In other words, pa, tha, ka are going to sound like pa, tha, ka at the initial position of a word in monosyllabic words. Or even in a words with 2 syllables, if these sounds come in the beginning of a word, they are going to get aspirated. If they are coming at the initial position of the first syllable of the word, they are going to get aspirated. That's for sure. But in some cases, they get aspirated even when they are not at the initial position in the word. Rather, they are elsewhere, but the rule is, if that syllable happens to be a stressed syllable in English, then stressed syllable will allow aspiration of these sounds in as part of the second or third syllable as well. So that's we are going to pay attention to those rules, and we will come back to those examples, and we will come back to this rule again. But we need to keep in mind that such stops like pataka, they remain unaspirated at the beginning of an unstressed syllable. So, if you find these sounds at the syllable initial position in a word, that is inside the word at the syllable initial position of second or third syllable, but if those syllables are not stressed, then these sounds remain unaspirated. Therefore, one more time I will stress this point, that our understanding for the purpose of clarity in syllabification and understanding which syllable out of multiples is a stress in the word is going to play a very crucial role in our speech, in how we sound. So, and what we need to know is all these rules apply only to unaspirated voiceless stops. Voiced stops, none of these rules apply. So, we do want to say this thing here, but it follows from the rule anyway that voiced stops are never aspirated. So, they always remain unaspirated in English, and these rules do not even apply to them. So, we are just overstating this rule. So, as you can see, this is an overstatement, overspecification. But the important point for us to look at is 1 and 2, and with a caveat of this number 3. So, having described this rule to you, I appeal to you not to memorize these rules. I want you to understand these rules by looking at the application of these things in the examples, and those examples will definitely make things clearer, so that you can say these rules at any point yourself. All you need to know, what is an aspiration, what is a syllable, and what do we mean by stress. So, as you know, stress is emphasis making a particular syllable stronger with little bit more force when we speak. Let us go and look at, when we look at syllables, we are going to see that. But before we go that, here is an interesting sentence. How do we read this sentence? This is, take a piece of cake. It's an imperative sentence. We will be looking at sentences little later. This is an imperative sentence, but there are 3 words in this sentence: take, piece, and cake. In each one of these words, there is pa, ta, and ka at the initial position. Pa, ka, and pa, ta, ka at the initial position, and they are all aspirated. Just wanted to bring this sentence to you to see all 3 sounds aspirated in one sentence. Now, let us look at words with more syllables, and here we are going to look at aspiration in stressed syllables. So, when we look at a word like potato, now keep in mind, I have tried to indicate stress on the syllable by using uppercase symbols, what we also know as capital letters. So, now potato, so this word has 3 syllables, and I am indicating number of syllables here in this margin. This word has 3 syllables. First syllable has a sound pa, it is at the word initial position, so that is going to be aspirated if following the first rule. But, so that is going to be aspirated following the first rule, that voiceless stops are aspirated at the beginning of a word. The second syllable, which is a stressed one, but it has a ta sound in the beginning of it, so it is going to be aspirated too. So, How does this word sound? Potato. Potato. So this sound is also getting expressed, aspirated, because it is at the initial position of an stressed syllable. Look at the second word, hotel. Hotel. The second syllable in this word is stressed, and it happens to be that ta is at the initial position of this stressed syllable. So this is going to be aspirated. I am indicating aspiration with this symbol H, and I am indicating stress with capital letters, uppercase symbols. So keeping this in mind, look at this thing, these words. I want you to look at one specific thing here. While talking about stress, we talked about a rule that mostly nouns and adjectives are aspirated, are stressed. That is, nouns and adjectives carry a stress on their first syllable. If there are two syllables in a word, and if the word happens to be either a noun or they fall in the category of adjectives, the first syllable will get stressed. That's the generic observation which we state as a rule. As you can understand, also that I have mentioned that this syllabification and stress on a syllable is quite innate and intuitive to speakers of English. So we get these things about syllabification, how many syllables in a word, where the syllable boundaries are, and which one of the syllable is stressed, if we start learning English from very early in our age. But if we are learning this language later, then it becomes a very tough thing to notice for us. We can still learn the language, we can still learn to speak much better, we can always improve, but it becomes difficult. Therefore, if we look at these patterns and we understand why these things happen, then probably it will be much easier to practice and improve these things for us to sound better. Moving ahead, so this noun hotel is an exception of that rule. This is a noun, but it has two syllables, but second syllable is getting stressed here, not the first one. So this is a small counter example to the previous rule. But nonetheless, this is how it is spoken. So we say hotel, hotel, because the second syllable is stressed. This word, it's the name of a country, Nepal, Nepal. So many English speakers, when they speak this word, because it has two syllables and the second syllable is stressed, and in the beginning of the stressed syllable there is a pa sound, so they make it aspirated. They say Nepal, Nepal. Now, this word intense, intense. The second syllable is getting stressed, and in initial position you have ta, so that is getting aspirated, intense. In the next word, intention, you have a word with three syllables. This syllable is stressed and a voiceless stop is at the initial position of this syllable, therefore it is getting aspirated. So the way it sounds is intention, intention. If you practice it this way, applying these things, then your pronunciation gets much improved. Keep in mind some other things that we have seen here as part of this rule, that voiceless stops remain unaspirated in any other position. That is, at the end of the word or at the end of a syllable, they don't get aspirated. So look at this. This word deeper, deeper. at the end of the, so first syllable is stressed, at the end of the syllable there is a pa sound, but this doesn't get aspirated. Institute, institute, the first syllable is stressed. Third syllable has a ta sound in the beginning of the syllable, but it is not getting aspirated because this is not a stressed syllable. So we say institute, institute. I'll show you more such examples. So, moving ahead, when we want to observe words with more than one syllable and we are paying attention to stressed syllables, we see unaspirated voiceless stops getting aspirated at the syllable initial position of a stressed syllable. In all these words like attention, this is the stressed syllable, ta at the initial syllable initial position gets aspirated. Word becomes attention. In this word retain, second syllable has two syllables, second syllable is stressed. In the initial position of this syllable, we have a voiceless stop, ta, and it's getting aspirated. The word is retain. In a word like retention, three syllables. The stressed syllable has voiceless stop, ta, at the syllable initial stressed syllable initial position in a stressed syllable. Therefore, it gets aspirated and we have a word sounding like retention, retention. Impossible, four syllables. Pa at the initial position of the stressed syllable in this word, therefore gets aspirated even though it's not at the initial position of a word. So, all these examples count as we are looking at application of another part of the rule, not just the first part, because they are not at the word initial position. So, impossible, impatient, impatient, three syllables, pa sound at the initial position of this stressed syllable. Therefore, it becomes impatient. Now, continuing these things, there are lot of such words in English, and that indicates that it's a very productive pattern, but very robust rule, robust pattern for us to observe. In the word department, the second syllable is stressed. Pa at the initial position is getting aspirated in this stressed syllable. Competition, competition, look at this word, competition. Third syllable is getting, stressed, and therefore ta at the syllable initial position in this syllable is getting aspirated. Competition, competition, four syllables in this word. The next two words are important for us to look at. We have discussed these two words earlier as well. The first one is decrease. When we know another rule for these two words, that if it's this word has two syllables. If it's used as a verb, second syllable is stressed. If it is used as a noun, first syllable is stressed. But it becomes important for what we are discussing now. When the second syllable is stressed, when this is used as a verb, then at the initial position of the stressed syllable, we have ka sound. Therefore, it gets aspirated. So, it becomes decrease. But when it is used as a noun and the first syllable is stressed, then same sound ka at the initial position of a non-stressed syllable is not getting aspirated. So, this word sounds like decrease, decrease. So, this follows from this rule that a voiceless stops remain unaspirated at the beginning of an unstressed syllable. So, in this word, decrease as a noun, because crease is an unaspirated, ka in crease remains unaspirated because the second syllable is unstressed. In this word, institution, again this syllable is stressed, therefore this ta at the initial position of the stressed syllable is getting aspirated. Now, look at it. Look at some more examples, some more words to understand application of these patterns clearly. Now, let me take you through these words to show you that in these words we have stress on the first syllable. In each one of these words we have stress on the first syllable of the word. All these words have two syllables and stress is on the first syllable. So, how does this application work? So, in a word like purple, look at this word, stress on the first syllable, pa in the initial position of the word gets aspirated because this is stressed also. So, application of the rule, but pa at the initial position of the second syllable which is not stressed is not getting aspirated. So, it remains as purple. This is how we have put all these words in a way that in the way they sound. Park. So, next one is practice. Practice. This is first syllable is stressed. Second syllable has ta sounds in the initial position, but not the stressed syllable, therefore no aspiration. Circle, second syllable not stressed because the first one is stressed, ka in the syllable initial position, no aspiration. Therefore, we are saying when the stress is on the first syllable, second syllable is unstressed and unaspirated. What I mean to tell you is the unaspirated sound remains unaspirated because it is unstressed syllable. Circle, turtle, here ta in the stressed syllable also because it is at the word initial position gets aspirated, but ta at the other syllable which is not stressed is not getting aspirated. Sample, first syllable is stressed, in the second syllable we have a pa sound, but it is not getting aspirated because it is not at the initial position of a stressed syllable. Temple, first syllable stressed, second syllable has a pa sound but not getting aspirated. Happy, look at this word, happy. This word has two syllables. First syllable is stressed, but pa in this word syllable is not getting aspirated because it is at the end of the syllable, not in the beginning of the syllable, therefore not in the beginning position of a word, therefore it is not getting aspirated. But second pa in the second syllable is also not stressed, is not aspirated because that syllable is not stressed. So, when you look at these examples, we see the rules, what we call rules, this kind of underlying pattern, and the interplay of these three elements in a word like stress, syllables and aspiration, together they are going to help us improve our pronunciation and understanding of English words. In these words, we have Second syllable again stressed because second syllable, the initial position has pa, ta, ka in the stressed syllable. So, they are getting aspirated. So, words like platonic, platonic. You remember? There is a pattern that in most of the words where you see the words ending in ik suffix, then in those words the penultimate syllable, the syllable before this ik sound gets stressed. That is the rule to identify stress in a word when it has more than one syllable. So, platonic, we know that this syllable is stressed, but it so happens that this has a ta sound in the initial position of this stressed syllable, therefore, it is getting aspirated. Iconic, ka sound in this stressed syllable is getting aspirated in the word iconic. Ta sound at the syllable initial position of this stressed syllable in the word atomic is getting stressed. Here this word again, atomic, atomic. So, this is the first syllable, just one sound, nucleus vowel, atomic. 3 syllables in this word, second syllable has ta sound at the initial position of a stressed syllable, therefore, it is getting aspirated. Compassion, again this is a stressed syllable, pa at the initial position getting aspirated in this word, and it sounds as compassion, compassion. Second word, next word again has pa sound at the initial position of the stressed syllable, which is the second syllable, and the word sounds as complete, complete, complete. Say these words to yourself several times following this pattern. They will have effect on other words that you speak. They will help you make your understanding of aspiration stronger. They will make you understand words in a better way, and they will also make you confident when you speak these words. Thus, we see that an understanding of stress patterns, syllabification, and aspiration as a feature of sounds together can help us a lot improve the way we speak. Hope you will be able to do some practice with this to be able to speak these words. You find a set of words with pa, ta, ka at the initial position of a word, particularly in a monosyllabic word, and see how they are getting aspirated and do some practice. I am positive that this will yield much better result in you learning to speak impressive English. Thank you.